The fight scene from 2003's Oldboy, directed by Chan-wook Park, is by far one of my favorite fight scenes of all time. And the fight scene from 2013's Oldboy, directed by Spike Lee, is a fight scene. It's not bad as a standalone fight scene, it's violent, well choreographed, and well edited. But when it's compared to its source material, it pales in comparison. That can be said about the film as a whole, but let's just focus on the fight scene here. If you haven't seen the original Oldboy, there's no need to fear, as this video won't be discussing story elements, but rather dissecting the single-take fight scenes. But I definitely suggest you go watch it because it's a great film and it's on Netflix. The biggest difference between these two scenes is their style. While both versions shot the scenes in an anamorphic aspect ratio, only one of them utilizes it to the fullest. The Korean version is a single tracking shot that places all the action directly within the 2.35 to 1 aspect ratio, making the hallway feel even more narrow than what it is. As you can see, the screen cutoff is restricted by not only the letterboxing, but by the height of the hallway itself. Whereas the US version pays homage to the Korean version by attempting to replicate the shot, but with its own various twists. Rather than placing the action in a claustrophobic hallway, this version places the set piece in a multi-level warehouse. This version does away with the cramped space in favor of a more open layout with some sense of verticality. I say some sense of verticality because when you get down to it, it's just fighting in a sterile warehouse floor on different levels. In order to accommodate those various changes in levels and keep the one-shot feel, the camera pans, tilts, and moves to follow the action on screen. It works for what it is, but it doesn't compare to the simplicity of the tracking shot in the Korean version. And speaking of simplicity of the shot, the US version complicates our ability to see the action by obscuring much of it behind a railing or a chain link fence. This creates a distinct separation between the viewer and the action, almost telling us to stay back. The positive here is that they actually utilize the fence and railing for part of the stunts instead of having it remain in the way. The music, much like the cinematography, is vastly different from one another. While the remake has a great action movie type sound to it, it doesn't contribute to the aesthetic of the scene as the original does. Take a listen to each track and think what emotion resonates with you in each song. One of them feels like a man mowing down a bunch of people, while the other feels like a man pushing his limits to overcome the odds. That's exactly what the protagonist does during the sequence. In both versions, he goes against the odds to fight and defeat various henchmen. In the Korean version, the protagonist almost feels like he takes much more of a beating than the US version. Josh Brolin's version takes a few hits here and there, but he still seems to be this unstoppable force taking on all these people. Whereas Min-sik Choi feels like he struggles more during the fight, getting knocked down, beaten on, and even getting stabbed during the fight. The remake does have our hero get stabbed, but it isn't until after the fight is over, almost as if, hey, we need him to have a knife in his back. How do we do it? We should, have someone run up to him and stab him. Great idea. And while the remake does have the hero get knocked down, this is actually only in the extended edition and not the original version. I assume it got cut for time. Each of these two fight scenes are great on their own. The remake reflects the era and time it's filmed in, through the music and the way it's shot, attempting to replicate the original, yet also applying its own twist to distinguish itself as its own noteworthy sequence. There's nothing wrong with the remake by any means, but when it's compared to the original, it doesn't quite live up to the shadow of its predecessor. Everything about the original is done so purposefully, from the cutoff of the letterboxing and the claustrophobia the shot creates, to the music reflecting the situation and the character's struggle to go against the odds. The entire piece is far greater than the sum of its parts, and that's why it far outshines its remake and is one of my favorite fight scenes of all time. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to drop a like if you did. If there are any other films or topics you'd want me to analyze, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video.